Everyone who thirsts, come to the waters. Come and eat. Listen diligently to me, and eat what is good, and let your soul delight itself.
In Mark chapter 10, actually it starts in verse 35 for this week's reading. I hate to get in. The first part talks about marriage and divorce. We've talked about that before. Let me just say this. I think it's interesting. We've got to link things together here. Even though this was in actually last week's, but Yeshua is talking about divorce and marriage, divorce and remarriage, and obviously marriage is his highest ideal. One man, one woman, forever, till death do us part. However, Elohim allowed Moses to offer divorcement, a bill of divorcement, in Hebrew called a get, because of the hardness of people's hearts, and they were allowed to remarry under certain circumstances, not for any or every reason. So I would say that his highest ideal is, again, you get married until death do us part. However, because of the hardness of people's hearts, so in Mark, the idea of divorce, Yeshua did acknowledge that was part of the law of Moses, which Elohim, he called it, Moses told you, but Moses got it from Elohim. Moses didn't come up with any laws or instructions that he did not go into the tabernacle and get from Elohim, or get from Mount Sinai when he was up there. So Yehovah allowed divorce, but it was not his highest ideal, and remarriage under, again, narrow set of circumstances, which we're not going to get into today. We've discussed that before. But it was his low ideal, just like Elohim allowed polygamy. But everywhere there was plural marriage in the Bible, it was a horrendous mess. It caused grief, it caused division, it caused, sometimes people killed each other because it was terrible. Jealousy, rivalries, and that's not how he established it. And I understand back in a patriarchal society, if you didn't have a wife who was barren, or if she couldn't give you a son, look, they didn't have nations as we know them. You had clans and tribes, and if you didn't have a strong tribe or somebody to pass it on to, a stronger tribe or clan would probably destroy you. And that was the case with Abraham. But we don't live in that day and age now, so we don't need that. And it was not a good situation. And so we don't advocate this at all. It was not his high ideal for marriage, it was his low ideal. The same thing with divorce. But it does happen sometimes. So let's be gracious. But what I want to talk about is, here in the first few verses of chapter 10 of Mark, what's the very next thing that it says? This is Hebraic thought. You know, in the Western mindset, we're Greco-Roman, we're very syllogistic in our step logic. We one thing leads to the other, and it's A plus, like a mathematical equation when we're laying out theology or whatever. But in Hebraic thought, and the Bible is Hebraic, things, concepts, and ideas are juxtaposed one against the other, and it looks like they're not related, but in reality they are related. This is a method of teaching by example. So here we have, in verse 13, after this discussion about divorce, and if a woman divorces her husband and it's for non-biblical reasons, she's committing adultery and making this other, it's an adultery situation. And the very next thing is, he's blessing the little children. And I think too often we've read that, as I have, You know, oh, that's nice. He's blessing the little children. The disciples didn't have room for the children, and so he you know, let's blow them off. It's kind of like in the church. I've mentioned this before. It's one of my pet peeves. When our children were small, and we were in a Sunday church. Look, children were nothing. They're kicked downstairs into the Sunday school or nursery school. Get the little brats out of there, you know, and you don't want them crying, you don't want them doing anything. We let our kids play in the back of the room as long as they play quietly and let families be together. We do, you know, let the teens and the preteens and teens, if the parents want them, to go in the other room where they do things, and they're studying Torah, and my wife is usually leading that, and so forth. But this idea of get the kids out, this is something that's been perpetuated in the church, and the youth pastor is usually a stepping stone to full-fledged pastor. Well, I believe that ministry to the young people is the most important ministry. And that's why my wife and I spent a lot of time developing Torah Explorers. That was a lot of work. It took us several years. Because I wanted, you know, I could not give my kids my adult Torah study guides. It was just like trying to shove meat down their throats. And it was just too much. I know, because I was giving it to them when they were little kids. They were reading, you know, they were trying to read this, and they were doing the best that they could, and I realized they're choking on this. So Yeshua put these kids up at the highest level of priority. But there's a greater message than that. Divorce hurts families. That's what it's saying here, in a Hebraic way. It doesn't bring a blessing on the kids. It hurts the kids. So we as adults must do everything possible to work hard to keep our marriages strong, not to allow our marriages to fall apart. And as a community, we must stand behind marriages. Thank God that I've never had to go through divorce. My parents have been married for, I just turned 54. They've been married for, it'll be 55 years, and it's hard to believe, in January. And, but my wife went through divorce, not my wife, but her parents, when she was a senior in high school. And just, her mother ran off with another man, and, you know, that was the end of that. It was just devastating effects on that family, to this day. Terrible things. Some of you may know, maybe you've experienced these things. And that's, so anyway, Yeshua blesses the little children, and I think there's a subtext here, a sub-message is like, hey, protect the children. And I like the advice of Dr. Laura, you know, if at all possible, make your marriages work. And if you can't, there's abuse, or there's addictions, drug addictions, or criminality, or drunkenness. Sometimes you have no choice but to flee that situation. But raise your children, if you are a single parent, and do not get married until your children are raised. And then think about it. Unfortunately, that usually doesn't happen. But I do know some people who have done that. You know, you think by now, okay, I'm not a child anymore. I'm not a young man, but I'm a father, spiritually. But as you get older, anybody had grandfathers or parents? My father's in his late 70s. My grandfather died a couple years ago. He was almost 100 or 101. And you know, the older you get, the less you say, the more you listen. Why is that? Because especially if I think for me, I started getting to that point when I got over the age of 50. You know, I've had 30 was a milestone, 40 was, and 40 was, when I got 50, half a century, and now I'm several years into that. I hate to admit it, but I am. It's like, I'm like, you may not think so, but I'm actually, ask my family, I'm probably a lot more likely to not say something. And I've seen this in my father, and older men and older women. They just sit back and smile and listen. And when they do say something, it's maybe a little more wisdom. I don't know if I've gotten to that point yet. I hope so. I'll get there someday. But you learn how much you really don't know. And you realize how much of what you said in the past is foolishness and off the top of your head. And I see something, you know.
Yeah.
She may be the oldest one here.
Yeah.
No, we got Linda too. Yeah, we got the two. Yeah. So in their 60s and 70s. I guess yours a little over. You're about 70.
71.
71. Oh, hallelujah. And so you know what I mean. I mean, I'm not where you guys are at, you know, because you got grandchildren probably and all that. But I'm not quite. I could have grandchildren, but I don't. But you get to that point, you realize it's almost like you come back to wanting to be like a little child again, but not the immature child, but the child that Yeshua talked about. Except you become like little children. It almost comes back full circle. There's something about that. And that's why I think grandparents maybe get excited about little children, because in a sense they maybe have come back to that point in their wisdom, not their carnality. I don't know. Am I making sense here at all? Is anybody, or am I just talking out the top of my head? Maybe I should take my hat off. I just begin to see in this dimension and realm. You two ladies back there, you're in your 60s and 70s. What? Am I making any sense at all?
Yeah,
Am I seeing something?
No, that's true.
Am I? And
Everything you said is true.
Yeah. I'm just getting a glimpse of that.
Yeah.
I think one reason we don't say as much is because so much time is lost in contention about things.
Yes. Yes.
You know, and everybody takes a long time to give their point of view, and you know, and then there's people that the minute they open their mouth, their mind is closed, you know, and they're not listening to any of it.
Yeah.
And it's just
Boy, I've spent most of my life in that camp, and I probably, hopefully, I mean, I don't know if I've graduated or not, but I'm hoping.
So you just don't want to get into a lot of verbal contention.
Right.
It's just,
I really feel that in my life, yeah.
It's like because once you hit 50, you know your time is growing short.
Right, oh boy,
You
yeah.
know, so you want to make the most of the time that you have left.
Yes, very well said, yeah.
That's what I've been feeling for a long time.
Yeah, I think so, yeah, exactly. You measure your steps, and life's too short.
It's just
You
like-
choose your battles carefully, yeah.
And you want to
This is-
get to the point, too,
Yeah,
you know, because a lot of things are said on the way to getting to the point.
Yeah, I've been
And it
guilty
takes a
of
long
that, yeah.
time, you know.
It's like your last chapter of your life.
yes. Yes, you want to make it worth it, yeah. I feel that, and I think I've got a long ways to go, but I don't know, I mean, who knows? I mean, I could get killed tonight on the way home. I don't know. But yeah, you sense that. In fact, I had somebody email me that they'd never wished me happy birthday before. It's somebody that used to be in this congregation, and I thought it was a very nice gesture. And I told them, I said, you know, you get to the point, I don't know if I want to remember it or not. My birthday was, what is today, the 7th? It was 2 days ago.
I wish you happy
Oh,
birthday.
thank you. That's all right. No, don't sing. It's all right. But no, I really don't. The birthday song I think is silly.
No, there's a nice one. That's a Christian one.
Okay.
Okay.
It's not the one, you look like a monkey and you smell like one too, not that
If you
one.
want to stab that part in, we could, but you know,
No, that's okay.
I'm the one sitting closest to the monkey cage, right?
But I wrote this person back, I thanked them for the good wishes. I said, you know, I really don't know whether to be happy or not about another birthday. So I really don't think about it. But what I do think about is staying close to Yeshua and making sure that my name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Because then I'm focusing on eternity. And these few years we're on this earth is but a blip on the radar screen of when you think of eternity. I mean, what's 50 years, 60 years, 70, 80? I mean, it's nothing compared to a gazillion years. So that's what I focused on. And I focus on all the things I still have to do. Take blessings, we'll see. I focus, Shabbat Tov, I think of all the things we have left to do. And so we want to get back to being about our Father's business. So praise the Lord.
Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon his name. He's near, he's near, he's near. Yeshua Hashem behir matzov kerahu yoto karov karov yasov rasha darko leishavim machshevotav yashovel ad Hashem ki arbe is Yeshua Hashem behir matzov kerahu yota karov Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon his name. He is near, near, he is near. Yeshua Hashem behir matzov kerahu